Hey Hoopheads, welcome to Hoops Daily. We break the biggest stories in the NBA, WNBA, and NCAA, so you're never out of the loop. Lace up and let's tip off. This is Hoops Daily.
Caitlyn Clark's off-season transformation wasn't just an eye-opener, it was a tidal wave that shook the entire world of women's basketball. In the blink of an eye, she went from being the talented new face of the league to a physically imposing superstar determined to stand her ground. Fans gasped when recent photos emerged, showcasing a dramatic shift in her physique that immediately triggered whispers and debates across social media. Was this simply the next stage in a promising career, or was it a glimpse of something even bigger? A revolution in how an elite guard can dominate the game. What makes this sudden change so mesmerizing is how quickly it seemed to happen. One day, she was the lean, electrifying shooter everyone praised for her limitless range. The next, she looked like she had stepped out of an intense strength camp. Her arms and shoulders had noticeably thickened, and her once slight frame now bore the hallmarks of a determined athlete preparing to lock horns with the league's most punishing defenders. This was more than just a typical off-season workout. To many, it was a complete reinvention that carried a defiant message. If the referees won't protect her, she'll protect herself. While the internet buzzed with speculation, the WNBA community felt a jolt of excitement and perhaps a touch of unease. Her rookie year had already proven she could draw massive crowds and generate viral clips, but her physical vulnerability became a talking point each time she was caught up in rough plays. Now, with her added bulk and unwavering determination, critics wonder if this could propel her to heights we haven't seen since the heyday of previous women's basketball icons. As everyone scrambles to interpret the significance, one thing is certain. Caitlyn Clark is no longer content to be just another rising star. She's aiming for something far greater, and the entire sport might never be the same again. When Caitlyn Clark entered the league, she carried the weight of lofty expectations. With a collegiate record that boasted jaw-dropping scoring numbers and highlight reel performances, fans were convinced her professional debut would reshape women's basketball. The league seemed eager to roll out the red carpet, plastering her face on promotional campaigns and labeling her the next big thing. Though some wondered if the attention was premature, there was no doubt that she had raw talent begging to be unleashed. Almost overnight, she became a magnet for headlines. Every flashy three-pointer, every pinpoint assist, and every fearless drive to the hoop turned heads. Sports networks clamored for exclusives, hoping to capture her early achievements and feed an insatiable public fascination. Whispers circulated that she was the heir apparent to some of the greatest the game had ever seen. But amid the fanfare, problems began to emerge. As skilled as she was, she found herself facing rugged, more physically imposing defenders who seemed determined to knock her off her path. During that inaugural season, the difference in body type between Caitlyn Clark and seasoned veterans became glaring. Standing tall among the league's best was no issue. Her height gave her a decent vantage point. But the sheer strength of her competitors was another story. She could beat nearly anyone off the dribble or shoot over them with her famously quick release. Yet it was the pounding she absorbed that proved to be the biggest challenge. Every collision seemed to broadcast just how much she needed more muscle to withstand the punishment. Social media chatter turned from awe to concern. Clips of her taking hard falls, sometimes without calls from the referees, fueled a growing narrative that the league wasn't offering its new golden goose the protection many felt she deserved. Viewers watched as her jersey was tugged, her drives were impeded, and the contact intensified. Suddenly, Caitlyn Clark's story wasn't just about her skill. It was about whether or not she could physically keep up with the brutal demands of professional basketball. That was the question that loomed large in the offseason. Would she come back stronger, or would the dream falter under the game's unforgiving realities? When photos and short video clips surfaced showing Caitlyn Clark's newly developed physique, the sports world collectively did a double take. The angular lines of her arms were now replaced with clearly defined muscle. Her shoulders looked broader, and there was a confidence in her posture that hadn't been there before. No one disputed that she'd worked hard, only the question of how she managed it so quickly. Some fans joked that she'd found a hidden strength coach who specialized in rapid transformations, while others labeled her a gym rat who refused to be outworked by anyone. Several insiders hinted that her coaches had encouraged her to train differently, focusing on dynamic strength-building exercises rather than just traditional cardio and shooting drills. They recognized that her well-documented skill set needed a protective layer if she was going to withstand the league's relentless physicality. Rumors spread that she was regularly benching and squatting heavier loads than many believed possible for a guard of her frame. Some even speculated that she'd consulted with trainers from other sports to find new ways to boost her core power. But as soon as the excitement bubbled up, so did the skepticism. How would this bulk affect her graceful shooting form? Pundits questioned whether the added muscle might slow down her once flawless release or negatively impact her agility. Others claimed that, if anything, the strength gains would enhance her endurance, letting her absorb contact without losing balance. The conversation quickly became a national debate among analysts, fans, and commentators alike, each presenting their own theories on how muscle mass could either elevate or derail her career. All the while, Clark herself stayed quiet, occasionally offering a humble remark during interviews. She downplayed the so-called transformation as simply a necessary step, hinting that if the referees weren't going to watch her back, then she would. Those comments ignited further speculation. Was this a direct jab at league officials? Her confidence in confronting the physicality head-on suggested that she was not just physically adapting, but also mentally preparing to endure and possibly dominate whatever the WNBA threw her way next season. To understand why Caitlyn Clark's decision to bulk up sparked such intense reactions, you have to rewind to her rookie year and the controversies that surrounded it. Even casual viewers noticed a stark difference in how fouls were called when she took the ball inside. Time and again, she was knocked off balance, sent tumbling to the floor, or slammed mid-layup, yet the whistle remained silent. Her fans voiced outrage on social media, questioning why the league's rising star wasn't receiving calls that seemed routine for others. Commentators, too, weighed in on national broadcasts, alleging that referees might be letting defenders get away with borderline physical contact. A few former players suggested it was standard tough love for a newcomer with a significant spotlight, while more cynical analysts implied that the league was attempting to test her mettle before granting her superstar treatment. Accusations surfaced that certain teams game-planned specifically to intimidate her, a tactic reminiscent of old-school ball where raw aggression was a legitimate strategy to disrupt the flow of an offensively gifted player. These episodes quickly spiraled into broader questions about the WNBA's approach to officiating. Was this a league-wide problem of inconsistent calls, or was Caitlyn Clark simply singled out because of her hype and skill level? The issue reverberated through sports talk shows and online forums. Some saw it as a glaring oversight that could stunt one of basketball's brightest prospects, while others believed it would toughen her up, transforming her into a more resilient competitor. Behind the scenes, rumors flew that her management team expressed concern over repeated rough play. They reportedly urged league officials to address the situation before it escalated into a serious injury. Yet no dramatic changes occurred. By the end of her rookie year, fans were split. Half expected the WNBA to intervene, while the other half suspected the silence might be deliberate. It was in this environment of doubt and controversy that Caitlyn Clark's off-season transformation took root, sending a clear message that if the league wouldn't shield her, she'd take matters into her own hands. Speculation about her newfound strength only grew when training camp footage leaked, revealing a glimpse of her workout regime. Sources close to her coaching staff described a methodical approach. First, Clark worked to improve her core stability, ensuring that every collision on the court wouldn't knock her off her pivot. Then she added compound lifts, squats, deadlifts, and bench presses to build a rock-solid foundation. Supplementing traditional weight training, she embraced plyometrics, agility drills, and even incorporated elements of mixed martial arts footwork to refine her balance in close contact situations. One particularly eye-catching rumor claimed she spent significant time focusing on muscle endurance rather than just raw strength. The idea was to prepare her muscles for the extended minutes she often plays, especially in high-stakes games where coaches lean on their star players deep into the fourth quarter. Observers reported seeing her repeatedly run high-intensity sprints, stop for a set of weighted exercises, then sprint again, mimicking the explosive bursts of energy required during a game. Her trainers, interviewed anonymously, expressed awe at her sheer resolve. They hinted that she pushed herself harder than any young athlete they had seen, never content with good enough. Whether at sunrise or late at night, Clark showed up ready to push her limits. Some days she'd work so intensely that she'd have to walk off the court drenched in sweat, her arms trembling from the strain of repeated overhead presses or a new personal record in her squat routine. Yet what truly set her efforts apart was the precision. Contrary to fears that she might compromise her shooting stroke, Clark was meticulous about preserving her range and accuracy. She reportedly ended each training session with hundreds of jump shots, free throws, and contested three-pointers, proving that muscle mass didn't have to hamper her iconic release. In fact, those close to her said she felt an immediate difference. Instead of getting battered in the paint, she could now hold her ground, secure her dribble, and finish plays that would have knocked her off balance before. It was a startling transformation that hinted at an athlete on the brink of transcending the limitations once placed upon her. As the first snapshots of new Caitlyn Clark went viral, social media practically erupted. Longtime supporters hailed it as a brilliant move, praising her unwavering dedication. They saw the weight gain and toned muscles as a statement of intent, a visible promise that she wasn't just aiming to score points. She was aiming to endure the demands of being the league's top draw. Hashtags referencing her bulking journey trended on multiple platforms, with fans circulating side-by-side images of her rookie frame and her transformed physique. But not everyone was impressed. Skeptics voiced concerns that bulking up might slow her down. Some insisted she was risking the fluidity that made her game special, arguing that extra pounds could impede her graceful drives and hamper her ability to maneuver quickly past defenders. Heated debates flared. Was she risking her skill set in favor of pure power? Or was she proving that women's basketball could embrace a level of athleticism once reserved for men's leagues? Countless theories poured in, ranging from conspiracies about undisclosed training supplements to the possibility that rival players might adopt a similar approach. One satirical post joked, "If they won't let her float through the lane, she'll bulldoze her way through." Another insisted that this was the dawn of a new era, where top guards would fuse perimeter finesse with a body capable of wrestling through the paint. Media outlets fed the frenzy, interviewing trainers, sports scientists, and even former athletes who weighed in on the dramatic change. The overarching narrative portrayed her as a trailblazer, someone who could rewrite the script on how a guard survives and thrives in a league known for physical defense. Meanwhile, her newfound muscle sparked a wave of interest from brands, apparel lines, fitness companies, and nutrition sponsors all saw an opportunity to link their products to her unstoppable spirit. So while the internet argued over whether this was the smartest move or a reckless gamble, the fact remained everyone was watching her every step, waiting to see if this was the beginning of a glorious new chapter or a miscalculated gamble. In the midst of all the fanfare, whispers began circulating that not everyone in the league was thrilled about Clark's transformation. Some rival players, according to insider chatter, felt overshadowed by the relentless coverage she was receiving. They claimed that the league was catering too much to a single athlete, potentially neglecting other rising stars. Then came the more dramatic rumors, allegations that certain players had seen her new physique up close during off-season scrimmages and questioned how she got so big so fast. It didn't help that her teammates and coaches would drop cryptic hints about her intense new regime, fanning the flames of speculation. A few anonymous sources stated that her day-to-day workouts were borderline extreme, and that she might be flirting with overtraining. Even so, none of these concerns held a candle to the broader rivalry emerging among top-tier guards. Clark's sudden leap in strength threatened the established pecking order, with some veterans quietly voicing that her hype overshadowed their long-standing contributions. Meanwhile, endorsements and sponsorship deals poured in for Caitlyn Clark, adding another layer of tension. Some believed that the WNBA itself was partially behind the hyper-focus, seeing her as a golden marketing opportunity. This idea sparked debate among basketball purists who felt that promoting a single player's physique overshadowed the essence of the team sport. Discussions turned philosophical. Should the league revolve around larger-than-life personalities, or should it champion collective competition? And then there were the rumored training methods that bordered on the sensational. Some fans spread stories of high-tech cryotherapy chambers, hyperbaric sleeping pods, and other sophisticated equipment typically reserved for big-budget sports franchises. The swirl of information, half-truths, and speculation reached a point where it was hard to distinguish fact from fiction. By the time preseason scrimmages began, every detail about Caitlyn Clark's muscle gain became fodder for talk shows. Was she leading a revolution in women's basketball training, or was it all smoke and mirrors? The only certainty was that her name spurred conversation at every turn, and that no one could ignore her looming presence on the court. Amid the chaos, one question began to dominate. If Caitlyn Clark kept progressing, could she ascend to the status of the greatest women's basketball player of all time? Her transformation sparked comparisons to legends who redefined the sport through sheer will and innovative training methods. Enthusiasts drew parallels to iconic figures in other disciplines, athletes who believed that physical evolution went hand in hand with elevating skill. In those comparisons, Clark's drive and determination stood out as uniquely formidable. Some analysts predicted that her next few seasons could be record-breaking, provided she stays healthy and adjusts seamlessly to her new build. Her improved resilience might enable her to maintain peak performance deeper into games and across grueling playoff stretches. Furthermore, her willingness to adapt, whether through new drills, different nutritional strategies, or extended practice hours, hinted at a longevity that could place her on a trajectory beyond what fans currently imagine. While supporters saw a future GOAT in the making, critics cautioned that raw talent was only part of the equation. Mental fortitude, team chemistry, and effective coaching would also play pivotal roles. They pointed out that countless prodigies had fizzled under the pressure of being labeled the next big thing, undone by injuries or the inability to handle unrelenting scrutiny. For them, Clark's bulking up was just one piece of a much larger puzzle she'd have to solve to achieve lasting greatness. Still, the possibilities were electrifying. Imagine a guard with the shooting finesse of a sharpshooter, the passing instincts of an elite facilitator, and the physical might to stave off any defender. That vision thrilled sponsors and fans alike, hinting that we might be on the verge of witnessing a new era in women's basketball. As the hype grew, so did the stakes. Caitlyn Clark's every move, shot, or even a casual social media post was scrutinized as evidence of her eventual destiny. Whether she eventually claims the title of the all-time greatest or not, she has already sparked conversations that transcend simple stats, illuminating the deeper question of how far a single athlete's evolution can push the entire sport forward. It soon became clear that Clark's physical evolution was about more than just preparing for next season's challenges. Her transformation ignited discussions around fitness, health, and the shifting expectations for female athletes. Some commentators argued that her dramatic muscle gains could inspire a wave of younger players, encouraging them to step into weight rooms without fear of losing their agility. Others believed this moment marked a turning point for how strength and skill can intersect in a league that had often been overshadowed by its male counterpart. Media giants picked up on this narrative, producing special segments on her off-season program and analyzing the possible ripple effects on college-level training. Coaches across the country began pointing to Clark's example when encouraging high school and collegiate athletes to embrace comprehensive strength work. Even casual fans, typically more concerned with highlight reels, got caught up in the excitement. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about, "Did you see that amazing shot?" It was also, "Have you noticed how she stands her ground against contact now? And could this approach help other star guards keep up with her?" Sponsors smelled opportunity, turning her journey into motivational ads that cast her as a pioneer. Brands touted slogans about pushing boundaries and changing the game, leveraging her story to showcase the limitless potential of women's sports. Meanwhile, her critics argued that such marketing campaigns risked placing too much weight on a single player's shoulders, especially when the league was home to many other talented athletes striving for the same recognition. Still, the magnitude of Caitlyn Clark's transformation couldn't be denied. She was at the center of a seismic shift, bridging the gap between raw skill and raw strength in a way that forced the WNBA to reconsider how it promoted and protected its stars. This raised deeper questions about the league's future. Would rising athletes follow in her footsteps, prioritizing muscle just as much as finesse? Or was this a unique phenomenon tailored to Clark's own experiences and challenges? The answers remained elusive, but the one certainty was that her journey had already shattered preconceived notions of what women's basketball could be. As everyone waited for the season to tip off, the excitement bubbled over, promising a spectacle unlike anything fans had seen before. In just one offseason, Caitlyn Clark managed to flip the script on what it means to be a guard in the WNBA. Her transformation went beyond the physical. It became a statement about resilience, adaptability, and the power of an athlete determined to shape the narrative rather than be shaped by it. She stepped onto the court with newly honed strength, demonstrating that she was no longer content to merely survive the bumps and bruises of professional play. Now she intended to stand her ground against the league's fiercest competition, sending a crystal clear message. If you try to knock me down, you'd better be ready for the pushback. From controversies over officiating to rumors about extreme training, Clark's journey has sparked debates that transcend a single player's career. Her bulking up confronted the WNBA with tough questions. Is it doing enough to protect marquee talents? Is the spotlight unfairly tilting in her favor? And perhaps most compellingly, are we witnessing the dawn of a new style of play that merges brute strength with refined skill? As each question lingers, the conversation only deepens, entangling fans, commentators, sponsors, and aspiring young athletes in a complex tapestry of shifting expectations and boundless possibility. Whether or not she becomes the greatest player in women's basketball is a riddle time alone can solve. Yet her willingness to challenge the status quo, both in how she plays and how she presents herself, has already made an indelible mark. She's shown that constraints can be reimagined, that the lines between skill and strength are not as rigid as some might believe. This evolution stands as a clarion call to anyone who underestimates her fire or doubts the future of the sport she loves. For now, all eyes are glued to the new season, anticipating the fireworks that Caitlyn Clark will inevitably bring. Will she conquer the league and silence her critics, or will unforeseen challenges arise that force her to adapt yet again? As fans and analysts speculate, one truth remains inescapable. She's redefined the narrative in a way that's impossible to ignore, and women's basketball may never be quite the same. The next chapter of her story is just around the corner, and it promises to be as captivating and perhaps as shocking as everything that has come before.